Hello, everyone. I am delighted to see so many of you joining us for this kickoff session. My name is Denise Ford, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to How to Write Your Own Money-Making Website, taught by the one and only Nick Usborne. For those of you who have not had the pleasure of meeting Nick, I hope you will at some point in the future, but let me do a quick introduction. He is a master online copywriter. He's also a site optimization expert. He's got over 40 years of experience in this marketing industry. As a copywriter, consultant, and trainer, Nick's worked with hundreds of companies, including Disney, AOL, New York Times. That's just a few. Nick's a widely read columnist. He's also the author of the critically acclaimed book on writing for the web called Net Words, Creating High Impact Online Copy. Nick's also the author of 5 very popular AWAI programs, including this one. In his spare time, Nick is a kayaker, skier, reader of both fiction and nonfiction. He has a passionate addiction for coffee and has his own money-making website about coffee, which is good, since he's about to show you how to create your own money-making website. With that, Nick, it is my true pleasure to turn this mic over to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your kind introduction, as always, Denise. So I'm going to do a little bit of sharing and dismissing email, which is really annoying when it crops up like that. And now I'm going to go. Sorry, this is like using your fingers to read. I always have to talk to describe what I'm doing. All right, okay, here we are. Right then. So welcome everyone. This is going to be a bit of a crazy hour. I have an awful lot to share with you in this session. And this is all about choosing your topic. And I know that some of you already know what you want to write about. Some of you probably have no clue, but either way, please pay attention as we go through this session. It is very dense. If you find that I'm kind of moving too fast, then you can always come back to the recording, or you can always go back, and I encourage you to go back to the course material, sections 1 and 2, to kind of dig a little deeper and maybe clarify some stuff along the way. So let us now dive into the topic of today's session, and that is how to choose a topic. This historically, because we've been teaching this for a few years now, this is where sometimes people struggle to get this done within a week, and I get that. If it takes you a little longer, take the time to get it right, and then maybe you can kind of catch up. Hopefully, you can then catch up over the 7 weeks. And if you, like I say, if you can't, then don't panic. So yes, step 1: find the topic that truly interests you. If you're not interested, you are a lot more likely to give up too soon. And this is really important because I've started playing around with lots of different sites over the years. And sometimes instead of going for something that really interests me and fascinates me, I've kind of thought, oh, look, I think there's a big monetization opportunity here. I think there's a lot of money to be made here. And then I've gone into creating a site and over time, I've kind of lost interest. I've kind of lost the energy to keep it going. So, because I kind of got into it for the wrong reason. And my experience tells me that the best way to make this work is to build a website that you really, really want. That you just love the topic. It fascinates you. It really, truly interests you. Because any other reason, and this then becomes your Achilles heel. If you're not interested enough, then you'll lose energy, you'll lose momentum along the way. So to get started in terms of some ideas on what might, what might be a good way to approach this is, hey, think about your hobbies. After work, after your daily chores, family obligations, what do you do for hobbies? What do you like to do? Photography, hiking, kayaking, cycling, planning your next travel trip, whatever. Think about the things that you know already interest you and interest you enough that you've been interested in them for years, because that's the kind of interest, that's the kind of degree of interest we're looking for. Think about stuff you already know. We've had people create money-making websites basically based on their prior career. So I know someone did one that she'd spent her career as basically working in an accounting office. She wasn't an accountant, but she did the bookkeeping, worked with lots of small business, businesses, small companies, and then built her money-making website, basically about bookkeeping, for small business, for solopreneurs. So it was, hey, sometimes when you finish a career, you're kind of burned out. Other times you just actually want to share your knowledge. So she wasn't burned out by it. She loved the idea of being able to share everything she'd learned with small business people. And that's where her idea and that's where her passion came from. Another way to look at it is sometimes people say, oh, I'm really fascinated by X. And actually, this applies to me on my new one, where in fact, am I an expert in my new topic idea? No, I'm not, and I wasn't with coffee. I had no clue really when I started my coffee website. So the way I did my coffee website, it was almost like, and what kind of the approach I'm doing with my new site is like, hey, I'm just really interested with this, and I'm going to explore and I'm going to share, and you're welcome to come along for the journey. So what I'm appealing there to is non-existing experts because they already know more than me. I'm appealing to the people who want to start the journey and kind of want a guide. So I'm just a few steps ahead. So that was absolutely true with the coffee side. I said when I set it up, I was very transparent. I said, look, I'm probably only 3 or 4 steps ahead of you on this, but follow along and I'll share what I discover about making great gourmet coffee at home. And that proved to be a good approach. Now, if you are an absolute expert, then you can build your website to a very expert audience. Or maybe it's intermediate. So let's say it's mountain biking. So, a beginner's guide to mountain biking, or intermediate, or, advanced if you are on a racing team, if you are. So there's these different levels that you can go in as well. By age, group, lifestyle, life events. Hey, let's say you want to write about yoga. Maybe it's instead of just yoga, you could be looking at yoga for kids, or yoga for retired people, or yoga for disabled, or so. I just want you to think that the topic's not just like a static thing, a topic like coffee or yoga. There's different ways of looking at it, of like what kind of audience, how expert are they, what age are they? Maybe an issue might be, is this person married or not? Do they own a home or not? Do they have a garden or not? So topics are not a static thing. Topics can be seen through all these different lenses. Choose by passion, cause, or belief. If you are truly passionate about something, so for instance, I had a website. It's still up there, but I haven't done anything with it for years. I just kind of lost momentum, called Bad Plastics. And it's all about, the dangers of some of the plastics we have in our homes, particularly around our kids, some of the chemicals that leach out. And that had the potential, and I felt strongly about it. I thought, hey, this is really wrong that we're bringing plastics into our homes that are potentially dangerous to our health. That is almost like a cause, right? It could be my cause would be to get people to use alternatives like whatever it is, ceramics or glass or whatever, instead of plastics in the house. And so I could be on this pushing this cause, so there's a real deep felt passion there. If you can do that, if you have a topic where you think this matters, it's not like Nick writing about coffee makers. Who cares? One way or another, we can live without a new coffee maker. But if you have something where you think this matters to life, to health, to happiness, this really matters, and you get behind it with a real passion, that can really, really help, because one, it's a huge driver for you over the long term. You continue to be passionate about it. It's great, and we'll get to social media. If you are truly passionate, if you're kind of pushing a cause, something you really believe matters, social media will be your friend, because you can build up a fantastic following on social media, and they will support you and become your kind of cheerleaders and advocates and things like that. The final point I make here about quality of existing sites, and this is a slightly different topic, is that when you start researching, and I'm going to show you that in a moment, when you start researching potential topic ideas, and you start looking on the web, you go to Google and say, hey, I wonder what kind of, what are other people creating? And let's say it's yoga for the elderly, and you do a Google search for yoga for the elderly. I haven't done that search, but it might come up with, for example, 37.9 million results. And you look at it and you think, oh my goodness, there's way too many people writing about this already. There's no way I could compete. So we're going to look at ways to address that. But also, here's a little trick. is just because there's 39 million or 1 million or 500,000 results in a Google search for a particular topic or phrase you type in, doesn't mean to say they're any good. So go in to have a look at the websites on the first and second pages of the search results, and you'll probably find the first few websites look pretty good. But you may find that when you start getting to websites 6, 7, and 8, you look at them and you think, well, you know what, that's not a great website. I'm not loving this. And then you have this little tickle and you think, well, hang on, maybe I could do better than that. So don't be put off by the fact that there may be thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of competing websites out there, because most of them are not any good. I mean, truly, and it's not us. It's always, it's not me being arrogant about it. It's the nature of the web. The nature of the web is that any of us, and all of us, can publish online, which means that a lot of people do publish online without doing a particularly good job about it. So there is that. So don't be discouraged on that. So if you can, pick a topic where you feel comfortable talking with your readers. In other words, stepping out from behind the curtain. So there's a couple of ways of doing this sort of website. You can either be anonymous, you're hiding, nobody knows who you are, like with a website. But the other way is to actually step out and say, hey, my name's Nick. I'm the coffee detective. Here's what I do. Here's what I think. This is me. This is my life. And that I have found with Coffee Detective has really, really helped me of being comfortable talking with my audience. Another site that I started years ago, I won't go into it in detail because I'm going to run out of time. But I started a website called Headphones Best Buys. It was basically a blog. And looking at different headphones. And at the time, it had so much going for it. I was ahead of the curve. I was one of the first headphone kind of review sites out there. You can tell from the design, this is like an old website. And everything was like kind of in my favor. But there were two problems. One is that I am not an electronics geek or nerd. I really don't know I don't even know how headphones work. It's like, it's a little bit like I said earlier, is my problem here was that in terms of market opportunity, the market opportunity was huge. I had two problems. One, and they were related. One is I really didn't know enough about the topic. And two, because of that, I didn't feel comfortable stepping out from behind the curtain and say, hey, I'm Nick. I'm the guy behind Headphones Best Buys. Ask me whatever you want. Because if they asked me something, I probably wouldn't know the answer. So yeah, if your topic is something where you feel comfortable stepping out and saying, hi, I'm Nick. So every video I do for Coffee Detective for YouTube, it starts off with saying, hey, I'm Nick, aka the Coffee Detective. Like, I present myself. This is me. That in all kinds of ways will give you an advantage if you can do that. Step number 2, or question number 2 to ask yourself, is there enough to write about? So this is kind of an interesting one. In terms of coffee, absolutely. Just this morning, a coffee grower from Honduras emailed me and said, can we send you samples of our coffee to review? And I wrote back and said, sure, here's the address. Because I'm never going to run out of stuff to write about coffee, because people send us coffee to reviews, people send us coffee equipment to review. There's always new stuff in media about, is coffee good for your health? Is coffee bad for your health? How do you use coffee in recipes? I mean, it just goes on and on. I could write 5 pages a day about coffee and never run out of material ever. But years ago, I was researching a possible website topic, which is basically garden bridges. So here's a garden bridge. And again, it was like everything going for it in terms of, and we're going to talk about search engine optimization in a minute. From that point of view, it was amazing. I was going through all the different phrases and terms that people might type into Google looking for information on garden bridges. And it was just there was like zero competition out there. I could have completely taken over the world of garden bridges. There was nobody competing. I mean, there were pages, but I knew that I could get to the top of page 1 for my garden bridges website. But I had a problem, and that is when I'm planning this stuff, I'll open up a mind map, I'll open up a Google Excel sheet, and I'll start writing out, hey, what are my pages going to be? It was like, cedar garden bridges, or garden pond bridges, or whatever, and then be fir, or then garden bridges designs. And so I was going through, and I got to about 20 pages of information that I could write, and then I got stuck. Like after 20 pages, I thought, well, hang on, what else would I ever say? I mean, what else is there to say about garden bridges? And I couldn't think of anything. And at that point, I let it go because I thought, okay, now I have a huge problem because I cannot make a money-making website that's going to last for years if if I've only got if my topic is only going to sustain 20 pages. Like I said, my coffee detective site has 1,200 pages and rising. So that's a problem. Make sure when you think about it, ask yourself, is this something with that is going to, can I keep writing about this? And if I do, is it always going to be relevant and interesting, or am I just going to will it be fluff? Will I be trying to pad stuff and make stuff up along the way? Next is find the gap. So you've got to find some kind of gap where you are going to be sharing information that is not easily found elsewhere. It may be elsewhere, but it's perhaps not easily found. And so you have to say, hey, you know what? I'm interested in this topic, but that is really broad and that really competitive. Is there like a subtopic? Is there a niche within that topic that I could work with? So as an example, when we're finding a gap, if we look here, we've got Better Homes and Gardens on the left. And that Better Homes and Gardens has been around forever. It was a magazine, now it's a magazine and it's online. And they cover pretty much everything to do with home and gardens. And could I compete with that? No, I can't. There's no way as an individual working from home in my pajamas I can compete with Better Homes and Gardens because they cover everything. But wait a minute, what if I wrote a website about balcony gardens? Now that is a niche. That is a very narrow part of homes and gardens. It's gardens on your balcony. And in fact, we had one of the alumni of this program created a wonderful website on, I think it's growing vegetables on a rooftop garden, maybe just tomatoes. I know we have a tomato website, we have a rooftop. So these are niches within a broad topic. So whatever you're doing, if you're looking at a broad topic like health, like gardening, like sports, like fitness, like whatever it is, that's too big. There will always be these huge media companies out there like Better Homes and Gardens, and you can't compete. So you find a slice. Now, could I find something in Better Homes and Gardens on balcony gardens? I probably could. They probably talked about it in their October 2018 issue. But it's not their principal thing. But if I actually live in a city, but I do have a balcony, and I want to grow some of my own produce and stuff, and I start searching specifically for this, and I come across balcony garden web, I'm thinking, oh my, I found it. This is it. This is exactly what I'm looking for. And that's what you're after. People think, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I'm looking after. You're not trying to please everyone. You're not trying to please people with huge gardens, huge yards, huge lawns. You're trying to please this subset of people who have balconies. And that is really, really important. And another example of this, I have a friend who's also he's in his planning stage of a money making website, and he had two topics. He's really interested in motorcycle touring, and he's really interested in kind of gadgets, electronics. And I was saying, like, hey, the gadgets, electronics is really, really competitive. There's a zillion sites out there with kind of electronics nerds and stuff. You'd find that really hard to crack. And he was like, oh, well, maybe I should go with the motorcycle touring. And I said, well, you'd probably be better off with that, particularly if it's in a particular area. It could be motorcycle touring in the Pacific Northwest or in Texas for all of our friends here from Texas. Anyway, then a couple of days later, he said, oh, I had this idea. He said, why don't I do electronic gadgets for people who tour on their motorbikes? He said there's like dozens and dozens of them. These guys who go motorcycle touring, they have tons of gadgets. So all of a sudden now what he's done is he's addressing both of his passions and interests. He's, instead of being gadgets overall or motorcycle touring overall, now he's found a subset, he's found a slice, gadgets for people who tour on motorbikes. And I thought, hey, that's perfect. That's perfect because they're both things that fascinate you. You've niched down into this very particular topic for the audience. So go for it. And so that's right. I thought that was an interesting example of how you can actually take two things, blend them together, and have a really interesting little niche there that is definitely an opportunity. Something to think about before we move forward, before you check out your topic, and that is the Google Medic update. This, I believe, September 2018, I believe. So Google does these every day. They're tweaking their algorithms in terms of which websites are going to show up at the top of page one of a search result. And then maybe two or three times a year, they do a major algorithm update. And in 2018, the biggest one was what became known as the Medic update. And it was huge, and it totally destroyed thousands of websites who just fell off the bottom of the search results. And it's called the Medic because they started off, and it'll probably over time apply to different topics, but it really does apply to the natural health market of where people say, Google have written about it in terms of, we don't like your money or your life websites. In other words, buy this natural remedy, if or you'll die, or you won't lose weight, or you won't find love, or whatever. In other words, give us your money to buy this thing, or otherwise your life will be awful. So it's kind of money or your life thing. So you have to be very, very careful with anything to do with alternative health. If you come up with two topic ideas and you think, hey, both of these are kind of interesting, if one of them is an alternative health topic and one of them isn't, I would strongly recommend that you go with the non-alternative health topic. Now, in fact, my new topic is kind of makes me a little twitchy because it's not an alternative health topic, but it does have a section within it that is related to health. So I'm a little nervous about that. I'm going to build out the rest of the site, the non-health related part of the site, sort of more strongly, and I'm going to be careful with the health related part of the site because I don't want Google to give me a hard time. So be aware of that if you do have an alternative health site, you could be in danger of not pleasing Google. And the only way around that we know of, if you're absolutely going to have an alternative health website, is please be a doctor, or please have some authority, some real authority in that area. If Google sees that you have authority, that you are a doctor or a researcher, or you've got some way to prove that you know what you're talking about, then they'll give you a pass. But if it was someone like me and I'm just writing about natural health stuff, Google probably would. I'd really be working kind of against the tide there. So just be aware of that. All right, step 4, search engine optimization. So this is a huge topic. We could talk for 3 weeks just about search engine optimization, but we're going to do an overview here in terms of how we use this in a way that might help us choose our topic in the first place. So what search engine optimization means is, hey, if you go to Google, you're going to type in something into a search box, and I typed in best coffee maker. Incidentally, when you do that, Google drops down some suggestions, like you can see here. Some of those suggestions are really, really interesting. It can give you an insight, because what those suggestions are based on is the searches that other people make. So when I type in best coffee maker, Google's saying, oh, by the way, a lot of people type in best coffee maker with Grindr, or best coffee maker Canada, or best coffee maker with Grindr 2020. So that's kind of interesting, the drop down thing. But search engine optimization is about, like, say, if I want someone to come to my coffee website, and someone types in best coffee maker, and I now have to optimize a page or pages on my coffee website for that phrase, so that when people type in best coffee maker and they hit return and the Google search results come up, I want to be on page 1 of those results. It's going to be, I want to see the Coffee Detective page about best coffee makers appear on that. This is what it's all about. It's about trying to get onto page 1 of the search results. If you think about your own search habits, you want to go on a vacation to Cancun, so you go to Google and it says best price, best time or best price or best hotel for vacation in Cancun, and the results come up and you start scrolling through the results. So how often do you go to page 2 or 3 or 4 or 5? Most of us will choose an option from page 1. If we're really serious about our research, perhaps we'll go to page 2. Do you go to page 11? Have you ever been to page 25 of the search results? I haven't. And there are probably going to be thousands of pages. So search engine optimization is about, can we, at this point in terms of choosing a topic, when you choose a topic idea, a question you have to ask yourself is, for this topic, is there any chance that I can get on page one of the Google search results? So like the Better Homes and Gardens, if I typed in gardening tips, is there any chance I can create a page that will get onto page one of the search results for the phrase gardening tips? And the answer is no. There's no way. It's going to be way, way too competitive. But if I typed in a phrase that said tips for growing vegetables on balconies, is there a chance I could get on page one for a page for that topic? And the answer is probably yes. All right. So search engine optimization is about, at this stage, is we start playing around with Google to see, hey, our topic, the niche that we want to talk about, is there a way that we can actually get onto page one or at worst page two of the Google search results? So to do that, like I said, the best coffee maker thing, we got to look for keywords, and a keyword is basically a word or a phrase like best coffee makers. So strong keywords are the words or phrases that people type into a search bar. And it's going to be a phrase. It's not going to be a word. There was, I think, a time in 2011 for about 1 month where if you typed in the word coffee, Coffee Detective appeared on page one of the search results. That was like 1 month in the last 12 years. And that was it. I never got on page one again for the single word. And because things get very, very competitive, things get competitive. And there are a lot of big companies out there trying to get on page one for the word coffee. So, all of a sudden I'm competing against Starbucks and Walmart and there's no way. So it's going to be a phrase. And for us, for a money making website, it's probably going to be a 3 or 4 word phrase. We'll get into more of this at another time, but for the purposes here, what you're looking for is supply and demand. So supply, you want not too many competing pages. So if it's for growing tomatoes on urban, a downtown balcony, probably not too many competing pages. You're probably good there. But is there enough demand? Are there enough people looking for that topic? So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for not too much competition, but enough people using a particular phrase or term to search for that. So you can see just in the bars there, we want low supply, we want high demand. And that is the challenge to get the low supply, high demand. And that's what we're looking for when we start looking at a topic and we start playing around with phrases that relate to that topic. So an example, strong words for my coffee website. And this was like in the early days. Best coffee makers was good. I found out that there was lots of demand. Lots of people were typing in best coffee makers into the search engines. And by the way, I always talk about Google. There are other search engines. There's Bing, there's Yahoo. But basically, Google is pretty much everything. It's like somewhere between 80 and 90% of searches are on Google. So basically, I just focus on Google. So that's why I just talk about Google. So best coffee makers, yes. I thought, hey, I can get onto page one. How to make coffee. I can't do it. I can't get on page one for either of those top 2 anymore. Iced coffee drinks, I discovered was a good phrase, so I built a page around iced coffee drinks. Coffee benefits is a good phrase for me. It always was and still is. So you're looking for these phrases, and as you'll see over this week and next week, we're going to build our site around the phrases where we think we can get on page one of the Google search results. But if at this stage, when you're thinking about topic ideas for your website, you start, and we'll look at the tools you can use in a minute, but we start playing around with these phrases and you think, you know what, I've got 10 phrases here that relate to this topic idea. And from what I've found out, there is no way that I could get on page one of Google for any of these. Then perhaps that's not your best topic. Perhaps you need to niche down to make it narrower, or to make it just for old people, or just for young people, or just for experts. Or you've got to find a way to find a niche where you can compete. You can get that balance of supply and demand. Right. So we're going to use some tools here to find that balance. These change. It's like over the course of teaching this program, like every year these change, because you get tools that come up that are great and free, and then the next year they're like $300 a month or something. It's ridiculous. But for now, Neil Patel's tool, Uber Suggest, is free. At least it was this morning. I think there's a paid version, but you can still use this free. So this is a keyword research tool. This is where we put in words and phrases and we find out what the supply and demand is. So this is where we can figure out whether a phrase, whether we have a chance to actually get on page one for a particular phrase. So, you're going to do some research. You're going to come up with a topic idea like growing tomatoes on rooftop gardens. You're going to think of a whole bunch of phrases that might be relevant to that. And then we're going to see whether we can compete with any of those pages. So with any of those phrases. So if we zoom in a bit here, so I'm still on Coffee Maker here. I did a search. So you type in a seed phrase like Coffee Maker, and there are various columns here. So you can see in the trend, you can see if that trend is going up quite nicely on Coffee Makers. It doesn't matter too much if they're going up or down, but it's kind of interesting. Volume. So that is demand. That is the number of people who are searching with that phrase, the number of people who are typing Coffee Maker into Google. 135,000 in a month, or I don't know if it's a month or a week or whatever, but and then we look at Coffee Maker Keurig, a particular brand, still a pretty nice number. Coffee Maker Cuisinart, another brand. So we're learning a ton of stuff here that people, other than the seed phrase itself, a lot of people search by brand. We got Bun, now we got Walmart. So anyway, so that's the volume. Cost per click. This is like if someone's paying for ads for a phrase like that, this is what they will pay per click. This doesn't relate to us. We're not going to be buying ads to get people to our website. That's not the model, but it's still kind of interesting. Like out there, marketers they'll pay 56 cents for the phrase Coffee Maker at Walmart to get a click. But they'll pay $1, almost $2 for Coffee Maker Keurig. So, you're just seeing the different potential value of phrases, which can be relevant down the road. So PD is the difficulty. So this is where they're looking at supply and demand, the number of people looking for something and the number of competing pages for that topic relating to, based on the phrase. And so if you're buying, so basically 100 is the highest and 0 is the lowest, and you want to be as low as you can. So in terms of difficulty, in terms of paid, like these are all super competitive. It's just 100, 100, 100, top to bottom. These are all super competitive phrases for people, for companies, merchants out there paying for and it's usually something like Google AdWords they're paying. This is the column that matters to us. This is search difficulty as opposed to paid difficulty. And again, we're looking at 100 at the top, 0 at the bottom. So Coffee Maker 77. You see, we're kind of in a bit of a kind of not a red zone, but we're in kind of a bit of a pink zone here. These are difficult. I'd look at that and say, okay, I can't compete. Now we're getting down into the 60s, 50s. This is, I'm thinking, okay, but as I get down to, what have we got? Coffee Maker at Walmart. It's at 43. If it's under 50, I look at it and I think, okay, that could work. That could work. So that's with this tool, with Ubersuggest, I'm generally looking for search difficulty at 50 or lower. If it's 43, great. If it's 33, great. If it's 23, even better. You're going to start building up this list of keywords and phrases that relate to your topic. So this is about, if you didn't care ever about making money from your website, and you didn't care about whether you had lots of visitors to your website or not, if you could care less, if you just wanted an outlet to express your interest in a topic, you wouldn't do any of this. You just write what you want using the words you want, the phrases you want. You build your site entirely. It'd be just for you. And you probably wouldn't get much traffic. You probably wouldn't make much money. That's okay. We're going through this little dance, this process here, because actually we do want to reach lots of people, and we do want those people. We want to be able to convert that attention into income at some point. So that's why we're kind of doing this, and why we're not so much compromising, but we're finding a kind of niche within our area of interest where we can compete, where we see there's enough people interested in the topic, where we see it's not too competitive, so we can start building pages around these phrases. And that basically is what SEO is about. Search engine optimization is you're finding phrases that are not too competitive, and you are building your site and you are building pages around those phrases. Another interesting place to go is Answer the Public. It doesn't give you any of the numbers. It's just interesting. I certainly find it interesting. And it's absolutely free. And you go there and you can look at the visualization like this, but actually that other tab, the data tab there, is a little easier to read. So if I type in coffee, they throw in all these why, how, what, when, will, where, which. And so let's say it's which. If I go there, it's probably which coffee maker this, or which coffee bean this. Or if I go to how, like how to weigh coffee, how to make coffee, and it does it in descending order. Like the first question of like why, or why does my coffee taste moldy, or whatever. The first question in the list, which is why I prefer, in fact, the data tab here. The first question is the question that is most often asked by people. I find this really interesting because this is what people are doing. This is questions people are asking. And if you think about it, if you think about your own experience with using the web, you very often go to a search engine because you want an answer to something. How do I get rid of the dandelions on my lawn without using poison? How do I train my dog when my dog bites my ankles? When is the best time to visit Machu Picchu? Why does the moon rise? There are so many things that we type in to search engines that are basically questions. And many of those questions start with how, why, when, which, what. All right. So Answer the Public is zeroing in on really some very interesting data, which is the questions people ask on topics. So you go there, you'll type in your seed word. I typed in coffee. You'll type in tomatoes, or you'll type in cycling, or you'll type in kayaking, whatever your broad topic seed phrase is. And then you will get these hundreds of questions that relate, these are the questions people ask about that topic. So the way I use this, and I do use this, is I go there, I do the seed thing, I get a whole bunch of questions. Then I'm going to say, okay, now I want the numbers. I'll now go back to Ubersuggest and I'll type in, how do I brew coffee or whatever. And I'll say, okay, what is the supply and demand? What is the relative difficulty of that phrase to get that phrase like on page one of the search results? So that is a really interesting tool. It doesn't give you the numbers so much. It just gives you this insight as to the questions people are asking. So Word Tracker, if you are fortunate enough to have deep pockets and you really want to throw some money at this thing, then Word Tracker is like a professional grade keyword optimization service. It's a keyword research tool. I've known these guys forever. I think they were the first back in the late 90s, UK based. And you type in particular words and phrases there, and you get a whole bunch of data in terms of supply and demand and competitive stuff. But it's expensive, and all other than the Neil Patel tool that Uber suggests, all of these professional grade tools like Word Tracker are expensive and beyond most of us. It's too expensive to make sense for most of us as a money making website. However, what they do have is this thing called Word Tracker Scout, which is an extension you can add to your browser, and it's free. So what you do is you install the extension, and you got the URL at the bottom there. Or just go to Word Tracker. You'll find a link to the Word Tracker Scout extension. You add it to your browser, and then you go to a page. So if you want to compete with my coffee site, you go to maybe the homepage of my coffee site. You'd click on the Scout button on your browser, and it would start doing, it would crawl my website, and it would start picking out like, okay, he's optimized for this phrase, he's doing this, he's doing this. And there are a few different tabs there, and it's free. And like, you don't get those numbers like you do with Ubersuggest, but you do, like, if you get one of the things I would always do is that I do always do, and that I'm doing with my current website that I'm working on, is I have a list of here are the 10 companies, here are the 10 websites that are like my competitors, the most similar to what I'm going to be doing. So yeah, I want to do a little competitive intelligence. I've spent dozens of hours on those websites. Like, how are they doing it? What are they doing? What phrases are they optimizing for? What kind of topics are they covering? What is the tone of their content? What is the authority of their content? And then I'll use something like, and I use Word Tracker Scout to dig down on some of their top pages and say, okay, what phrases are these guys optimizing for? So interesting tool there. But yes, definitely do what I just said. Definitely, when you come up with a topic or an idea for a topic, have a look and say, hey, who are my 10 competitors? And let's say you're doing rooftop garden, vegetable gardening. Your biggest competitor isn't Better Homes and Gardens. That's a whole different category. You want to look at your more immediate competitors. So, for instance, a competitor to your rooftop gardening may well be that balcony gardening, because it's the same kind of thing, right? Is somebody could be it. So yeah, think like who would buy, and isn't competitors is probably the wrong word because they're not really competing. Maybe they are in a sense, but it's like, okay, these guys are doing something similar to what I want to do. Let me learn from them. Let me learn the best of what they've done and see if I can find weaknesses in what they've done and avoid doing that myself. So there is a temptation with this, with a money making website, and I kind of posted a couple of things to the Facebook group saying, hey, sort of hold back, slow down, don't run too fast. There's a temptation to just grab a topic. All right. But like I said earlier, I'm very self-disciplined. I'm very kind of process-based at this stage of something. And I have an Excel spreadsheet and I keep adding more and more. Hey, here's content that I'm going to write on this topic. And I make sure that it kind of feels like I'm never going to run out. I have a spreadsheet with what I consider to the top. I think I've got 12 different websites for the new website I'm doing, 12 kind of competitors. Where I spend time. I spend time going through and picking them apart and trying to find out, like, what do these guys do best? What best practices should I be doing on this topic? What are the questions? What are the topics within this broader subject that people seem to be most interested in? I dig down. I don't. You're going to invest for something. I don't know how many thousands of hours that I've put into Coffee Detective. Now, it's made me hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years, Coffee Detective. But I've put in thousands of hours as well. And if you're going to put in the time, you want to put in this work at the beginning of like, hey, do I feel there is potential here? So don't skimp on the research. Don't skimp on kind of looking through stuff. Don't rush. Don't jump. And I have to be really careful with myself because with my new topic at the beginning, it was just all interest and passion and intrigue. Like I had to really kind of rein myself in and say, hey, before you make any commitment of time, before you invest anything in this, just step back, just slow down a moment, Nick, and go through this same process, which I did, and make sure that I did the whole thing. I did through Uber Suggest, I did it through other tools I have. Is there an opportunity here? Can I get onto page one? So now I feel I'm in a good position because actually I started off with just a pure passion, like, oh my goodness, I would love to write about this. I really want to share this. And then I went through the more kind of meticulous process of, is this viable? Might this work? And I kind of got a yes, but you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be tough with yourself. So that you're not investing time in something that doesn't actually have a lot of potential down the road. So in terms of, I say, don't get stressed. Not every keyword will be a winner. So people sometimes they'll go through that process. They'll use the Uber suggesting. They'll say, hey, Nick, like, I've got some phrases here that have potential, but a lot of them don't. And that's okay. It's like on Coffee Detective, I have pages where from a SEO point of view, there's no way I can win. But I have the pages there because I know that my readers are going to enjoy them. I know that my readers expect to see them. Like, say, I've got a section on coffee grinders, very, very hard. Like, I've never succeeded really in doing that well in terms of search engine optimization on the topic of coffee grinders. But it's a page I have to have because I'm talking about making gourmet coffee at home. I can't not have a page on coffee grinders. So not every keyword is going to be a winner. So going through the research phase, some will, so long as you have some where you think, hey, that's looking good, that's looking good, that's looking good. If there's a whole bunch where you think, I can't win on that, I can't win on that, but I need to write about it. That's okay. That's okay. You're still adding value to the experience, adding value to the website. And sometimes top keywords will be revealed after you publish. So when you publish a site, you're going to use an analytics program. Usually it's going to be something called Google Analytics. Or there are other options as well. where you're going to find out what phrases people used. And Google Analytics isn't as helpful with this as it used to be, but um, you're going to find out what kind of phrases people use. What did they type into Google before they got to your website? And it's weird. Is coffee fattening? I'd never have thought of using that. In fact, the reason that ended up on my website is I have a function on the website where I invite people to submit their questions. And somebody submitted the question, is coffee fattening? And I almost ignored it, but I didn't. I thought, okay, I'll answer that. And I looked it up, and no, coffee is not fattening, and unless you're getting a kind of a latte with whipped cream and toppings, in which case it's very fattening, but coffee itself is not. It's pretty much 0 calories. So I wrote that page and I put in an image. I get a ton of traffic. I've made probably thousands and thousands of dollars in terms of advertising revenue off that page. Descale Keurig Brewer, I've made even more money. I'd never have created that page, but somebody asked me, how do you descale a Keurig Brewer? And the funny thing is, it wasn't actually about descaling at all. It had a whole separate problem. And I figured out, someone else told me the answer to the problem. And I shared that. And again, that page was my biggest earning page for probably about 5 years. Alcoholic coffee drinks. I hadn't found that. I hadn't thought of that. Turns out that wasn't a question. I just lied. I just put it out because I thought people would be interested in. Turned out to be a very strong keyword. So sometimes there's tools out there miss it. So again, don't kind of freak out if you think, oh my goodness, I've only got 10 reasonable key phrases, but I'm going to have to end up with hundreds of pages. Because sometimes, you'll be surprised. You'll put up a page where you think that it's not going to be really, really strong, and it will be. And it'll, are K-cups recyclable? I didn't know that that was going to be a popular question or a popular page, but it is. So like I say, some of all this is kind of happens afterwards. Something else to think about. So for my new website, I actually have I've already started my Instagram. There's lots of images. I have a lot of image potential. Photographs for my new topic. And so I already have an Instagram account for my website. Website's going to be ready for another kind of month and a half probably, but there's no reason I can't. So I don't have a link to my website because my website's not live. I don't have a link to it from Instagram, but I still have the Instagram page. I got a couple of hundred people following me now. And maybe by the time I launch, I'll have 1,000 people on my Instagram page. So I'm very aware that compared to the early days of Coffee Detective, where social media wasn't a big thing, social media can and should be a big thing now. So maybe, for me, it's probably going to be, as I look there, I'll probably, on this topic, I'll probably be big on Instagram and Pinterest. That is very visually based. Maybe Facebook, probably not YouTube. I don't think I'm going to do lots of videos. I do a lot of videos, very successful, for Coffee Detective, like it's reviews, gear reviews. Twitter, maybe, but Instagram, yeah, that'll be a good one. The other thing, so this is from Coffee Detective, this is from Google Analytics, and a particular moment in time, 24 people were on the website at that moment, and out of those, 67% were looking at the website through this smartphone. And that is now pretty typical. At any given point, more people are viewing the Coffee Detective website through their smartphone than they are through laptops or tablets. So my new website is optimized for smartphones. That it is mobile first. Any kind of design or programming decision, any way that I want the thing to look and behave, the first thing I do is, what does this look like on a smartphone? So that's very different from when I launched Coffee Detective, but definitely something you need to think about and understand today. And this will also speak to sometimes the platform that you use. Whatever platform you're going to use to build your website, does it allow you to go mobile first in terms of design and functionality? Because if it doesn't, well, not so good. I'm going to go a little bit over time, but there you go. I knew I would today. It's a lot of information. And like I say, there is a ton of information here. So don't freak out. You can always go back to this video. You can always go back to the course material. Step 5, there's a question to ask. Is there any money at the end of the rainbow? Good question. So with Coffee Detective, I thought from the beginning, right at the beginning, yeah, probably, because people buy coffee equipment, coffee makers, espresso machines, coffee grinders, so many different types, so much different coffee gear. and where people are buying stuff like coffee and equipment, there's an opportunity there to sell advertising, to do affiliate deals or whatever. So I thought, okay, there's potential there. With my new one, is the potential? Yes, there is. It's going to be slightly different from the coffee thing. There's certainly not as much equipment involved in my new topic. What I'm actually going to go for is a high volume of visitors and make money off advertising revenue. So it won't be people so much buying stuff. I just want to get the eyeballs, and I know there are advertisers out there who would be interested in reaching that audience. But is there some way you feel you can monetize this? And like I say, it can be in different ways. I know people who built money making websites who actually make most of the money selling ebooks. Or maybe it becomes a membership site, or maybe they're selling trips. Maybe they're selling watercolor classes, online classes. There's so many different ways. So you've got to have kind of fairly broad thinking. If you're thinking in terms of ads or affiliate programs, things can be different. So let's say it's an affiliate thing and you're working through Amazon, which is not nearly as good as an affiliate partner as it used to be. But let's say on the right, if you're selling, let's say, hey, with Amazon these days, I used to say when I was giving this presentation, 10%. Now it's more like maybe I'm saying 2%. If you're getting 2% on the sale of a book, it's pretty much nothing. So if you have a website about books and you think, hey, I'm going to make my money as an affiliate partner of Amazon, well, you're going to have to sell an awful lot of books because you're going to get pennies per sale. If you're selling flat screen TVs, on the other hand, and it's still 2%, well, that's not nothing. If people are spending, $1,000 or whatever on some fancy electronics gear. But again, bear in mind that as you get into that space, the competition will be stronger because other people will be having the same idea. So for me, there are like the big affiliate network things like Amazon, and we're going to talk about this in the monetization session. Definitely not as strong as they used to be. There are individual companies, like this morning, the guy who said, would you review this coffee? And he said, oh, by the way, we have an affiliate program, and that's at 10%. So I get 10% on the coffee. So that's fine. So there's still, in terms of individual company partnerships, opportunities to make money as an affiliate. Not so much with the big networks like Amazon. Where the amount they pay out is getting very, very skinny. But also be mindful of what you're selling. If you're selling stuff where it's $10 per purchase, then even if you're getting 10%, you're only making $1. All right, so be mindful of that. But like I say, maybe that's not going to be your monetization model. Maybe you're going to write a website all about. I'm trying to think. I don't know. It could be Lord of the Rings, all about for Lord of the Rings fans, and then maybe you make your money by giving guided tours around a certain part of England that relates to that. That's a thing. You take movies, you take books that take place in a certain part of the world, and there's a tourist industry opportunity there. So think broadly in terms of, hey, is there an opportunity here to make money? So a little bit over, but like I say, a lot in there. Conclusion. So pick a topic that really interests you. Like I say, if everything else is great, it's like with me with the headphones. With that, you know what happened? I was in the airport in London Heathrow probably about 12 years ago, and there were all these amazing headphones, really high-end headphones you could plug into your iPod. So this was in fact before. So this was before 2011, before the iPhone. So before mobile phones, it was still all iPods and stuff. And in North America, everyone was plugging in just those little earbuds. Almost everyone. That was it, earbuds. And I was in this place in Heathrow, London, and this electronics store before going to the gate, and they had all these amazing headphones. And I thought, wow, these guys are way ahead of us in North America in terms of the quality of the headphones they plug in for their, electronic downloaded music. So then I landed back in Canada, and I thought, all right, I'm going to build this site. I'm ahead of the curve. And I was absolutely ahead of the curve. And at that time, there was a wonderful affiliate opportunities for headphones, and the good ones can be quite expensive. So like I said, everything in terms of search, because there was very little in terms of high-end headphones in North America at that time. There wasn't much competition on search terms. Like I was absolutely like if I'd been smarter, I'd have found myself a kind of geeky partner to do that with, and we could have turned it into something huge. But I didn't. It was just me, and like I say, I ran out of enthusiasm because it was a great opportunity, but it just didn't hold my interest. I'm just not that interested in headphones, and I'm not that geeky about what makes headphones work. So that, I just ran out of steam. So you definitely want to pick a topic that is going to interest you over time. Definitely make sure there's enough to write about. So again, headphones would have been great because there's always new headphones, new models, there's new stars promoting, celebrities promoting particular headphones and co-branding, and there's always stuff to write about, talk about. And there's so many different areas of headphones, studio headphones, music headphones, work from home headphones, these headphones, Zoom headphones. It goes on forever. So yeah, I could definitely have written enough about that. And like I say, with coffee, definitely. With my new topic, definitely there's enough to write about. But think about it, because definitely say with the garden ponds, no. And then, yeah, you do your best to get a strong supply and demand ratio for keywords on the phrase. Like I say, don't freak out too much. Not every page has to do well in the search engines. And as an example, in fact, one of the things I'm dividing up with my new topic, and I have a couple of different sheets on the spreadsheet, is here are the pages that I think will do well in the search engine, so that I got some strong keywords and phrases. And then the other sheet is here are the pages that I don't think I can compete with in terms of search, but I think I can make these share really well through social media. So, I'm looking at shareable content. So it's not just about SEO anymore. You can actually build a lot of your traffic through social media. And if you have a visual thing, I know a lot of people in the food space, the foodie bloggers and stuff, who get most of their traffic not through Google or Bing or Yahoo. They get it through Pinterest, which is more of a kind of visual, an image search engine than the other search engines. So yeah, if you think you're looking a little skinny on the search side, think to yourself, well, okay, hang on. What about the social media side? Could I really shine here? An unexpected source of traffic for me has been YouTube for Coffee Today. If I hadn't anticipated that at all, my videos are, to be kind, are amateur. The equipment's amateur, the lighting's amateur, the editing is just me playing around. It's just pure amateur from beginning to end. But I've done really well there in terms of, I did a review of a particular coffee maker that's now had 500,000 views. So 500,000 views is nothing for Justin Bieber, but for a guy in his pajamas writing about coffee, that's a huge number. So I make money through advertising off my YouTube channel. And I also refer a lot of traffic from the YouTube videos back to my website. So it becomes a source of traffic to me. So and in fact, YouTube is after Google itself, because Google owns YouTube. Google is the biggest search engine by far. The second biggest search engine is YouTube. People that go there to search, and they're searching for, if I want to know how to adjust my mountain bike gears, I can do it on Google. But actually, I'll probably do it on YouTube, because then someone's going to have a video showing me how to do it much better. I go to YouTube as my search engine, and that's why it's the second largest search engine. So yeah, you're thinking in terms of search engines, but you're also thinking in terms of social media optimization. And that's a whole different area and a lot of fun, and we'll get into that in a later session. So yeah, create your site with social media in mind. And be stubborn and persistent. This is my secret weapon. I am ridiculously stubborn and persistent. And like I say, I'm very process driven in the early stages of a project like this. Like I said, I'll use my mind maps, I'll use my spreadsheets, I'll use those tools. I get kind of very geeky over it. And when I get into it, say with Coffee Detective, when I started off, one of the reasons I chose the topic and like I chose an audience of people, my audience for Coffee Detective was people who up until then had probably been drinking Maxwell House, but they'd been to Starbucks and thought, hey, this is better. I wonder if I can make coffee this good at home. That's my audience. That was my audience. That is still my audience. And it was an audience that wasn't being very well addressed at the time. There were lots of websites that were great for the coffee geeks. And they're still around. There's some terrific websites for people who are real kind of professional grade coffee lovers. But for regular people at home who wanted to learn how to make gourmet quality coffee at home, there wasn't much. There's much more now. So then a few things happened. So I started growing and doing well and well and well. And then other people noticed the same opportunity. And so the competition when I started was like this. The competition today is like insane. But I've watched over the years because I use tools to look at how are my competitors doing. And so here's little old me, and I'm kind of trundling along, growing, a bit of a dip and a bit of a rise, but generally kind of growing. And then I see some of these guys and they'll race past me and then they'll drop off and I can't even find them anymore. They're gone. And the reason I'm still there is I'm more stubborn and persistent than they are. Because sometimes you take a knock. Sometimes there will be a Google algorithm update that will kind of, suddenly hit your numbers and you think, oh my goodness, this isn't going to work anymore. And you stop. I don't do that. I'm not like that. I don't. Like, I'll take the knocks and I'm persistent. It's my secret weapon in everything and anything to do with my work life. The secret of my success is not talent. The secret of my success is persistence and being stubborn. And definitely that is probably the number one quality we're looking for in a money making website is being stubborn and persistent. I mean, like being inspired, creating fantastic content. But that is the kind of steel framework underneath that, or the foundation. That's what actually keeps you going forever. Is that like, no, I'm not going to give up. No, I'm going to take the knocks. I'm not going to give up. I'm not. You just keep on going. Right. So a little over time. I knew it would be on this one. We cover a lot of ground in this first session. So Fran, let's ask the questions. And like I say, please keep the questions relating to this topic. If you ask me questions that we're going to cover on a topic that we'll cover next week or the week after, then I'll just say, hey, we'll talk about that next week.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you, Nick. The first question for you today, is it at least theoretically possible to monetize basically any topic if you approach it well enough?
Probably. The biggest thing with monetizing is you need the audience, you need the eyeballs. So Coffee Detective has made me close to $500,000 since I started it. But I get like about 5,000 visitors a day. That's a lot of visitors a day. And that is, you don't need that many visitors a day to make money. And there are different monetization models. But I'm basically advertising. Basically, there are ads on Coffee Detective. That's where I get my revenue. And for that model, I need a lot of traffic to make, a reasonable amount of money. But you got to think it, like when you say, is the potential to make money on pretty much any topic? The answer is probably yes, but you got to be creative about it. You got to think about it. Like, hang on, like, how would I? Like, am I going to be able to get thousands of visitors a day? If so, then you can make money on advertising, on affiliate stuff. Is it just going to be 100? Then okay, maybe you need to make your money in a different way. One of the alumni here, this group, has a website about raising rabbits. It's actually called raising-rabbits.com. And I think she probably makes more than my coffee website does. But I think last time I looked, or last time I spoke to her, or connected with her, most of her revenue comes from the books, ebooks. So she creates content on her website about people who want to raise rabbits. And she'll write a wonderful page, like a 1,000-word page, but the people want to know more. Well, how do I build a rabbit hutch? And so she creates an ebook. So what she does is she uses the website to test like which areas people are most interested in. And when she sees a lot of interest, she's like, okay, I'll write an ebook. I'll expand the scope of this page into an ebook. And then she sells the ebooks for like $10, $12, $8, whatever. So that's her monetization model. There's another guy who basically, I think ultimately it turns through to like some kind of one-on-one consulting thing. There's someone else who does a membership thing. So you got to think it through, like what might I be able to, how might I be able to monetize this? My guess is that most topics could be monetized, but there's no guarantee. You got to be able to think it through and say, hey, you know what? I could do this with advertising. I could do this with ebooks. I could do this with memberships. I could do this through, I don't know, some kind of joint deal with someone. So, but we'll get into the monetization in week, 5? And we'll go through 8 different ways. So the answer is probably yes, but think it through and be clear in your mind that what you're going to be aiming for as you build this out. Because you're going to, like me too, when I start this new site, I've written maybe 3 pages so far. I got an awful lot of writing to do. But before I decided to commit that time, because like you, my time is valuable. Like, is this a good use of my time? I had to think ahead, well, hang on, is there a potential return here that is going to make it worth my while to spend all this time building this site? And you have to be able to think it through and think, yeah, I can see that. I can see that I could make good money out of this. So yeah, it's worth putting in the time.
Great, thank you. And Nick, before you stop sharing your slides here, someone did have a question about the Uber Suggest slide. They were wondering what the last column meant again.
The Uber Suggest. Let me see if we can. I'm going to go back line by line by line by line. I could probably have just gone out of display and done it that way. The last column on the right there is called search difficulty. That is the degree of difficulty. And with different keyword research tools, sometimes this column is called KEI. And I believe it's called KEI within Word Tracker, and that stands for Keyword Effectiveness Index. There's a platform that I use with Coffee Detective is built on a platform called Solar Build It. And that last column is called profitability. Basically, it's where they're doing the math they're looking at supply and demand for a keyword. How many websites are there? How many pages are there addressing this? That's the supply. How many people are using this search term when they go to Google? That's the demand. And then they do a little bit of math. They do their secret sauce, and they let you know, is got a high KEI, or is it highly profitable? Or does it have a reasonable SD number, like a search difficulty number? And these you can use if you look at 3 different tools. If you looked at Neil Patel and compared it with Word Tracker and you compared it with Solar Build It, all of these numbers would be different. They all use, they all source their information in different ways. They all use different calculations to figure out whether a keyword has the potential, the keyword is it effective or profitable or the reasonable search difficulty. So you can never compare them number by number. So what you're doing is you're just looking at relative to. So we can see here that Coffee Maker at Walmart relatively is going to be much easier for you to win, get on page 1 than Coffee Maker. So that's what we're looking for, whether you're using this tool or others. So search difficulty, you're staying away from anything that is like kind of, 70 and above or 60 and above, and you're looking for stuff, if you can, you're looking for phrases and terms that have a search difficulty number of like 50 or lower.
Great, thanks, Nick. The next question was, would SD be ideal when it's 43 or under then?
Well, when it's 43 or under, it's kind of doable now, right? It's like, but I would, if I'm running a whole bunch of different phrases through here, I'm going to be really loving it if I see something that's 23 instead of 43. There's another thing to think about, and I might touch on this in a future session, but I'll touch on it now here, and that is what we call the long tail. With my website, with Coffee Detective, most of my traffic comes through long tail keywords. These are keywords where I have a search difficulty is very, very, like I'm at 23 or 13. All right. There's almost no competition for me with those key phrases, but there's not a lot of demand either. There's very low competition because not many people use that phrase. These are long tail keywords. So I can win on that phrase, but I'm only going to get 10 visitors a week as a result of it. So it doesn't sound much. But what if you have 500 pages like that? What if you have 500 long tail keywords? So when you actually look at the analytics for Coffee Detective, most of the traffic is not coming from two-word phrases like coffee maker or coffee maker Keurig. Most of my traffic is coming from these weird things like, is coffee fattening? So that's not a long phrase, but it's a kind of edge phrase. Like, it's really not central to the topic of making gourmet coffee at home, but it's a very, very popular page. It's a long tail keyword because there's not a lot of competition for is coffee fattening, which doesn't surprise me. There's a kind of a reasonable amount of demand for it, surprisingly. But I have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages like that, where they're very, very low competition. But they also, like I say, low demand. So I'm not getting a ton of numbers, but I make up for that with volume. And sometimes it's like an edge phrase, like is coffee fattening? Sometimes it'll be someone will type in something like, which is compare Keurig, Cuisinart, and Bun coffee makers. So that's a phrase, like a 7-word phrase. That's a long tail phrase because very, very few people are going to type that in. It's not an obvious phrase. A lot of long tail key phrases are long. They're 5, 6, 7, 8 words long, what people type into the search engine form there. So that is, again, one of the other secrets of how we can succeed in the face of big company. How can I succeed against Starbucks with Coffee Detective? I do it because I'm like the master of the long tail, and they don't do that. Why would they do that? They don't do that. They don't play that game, but I do. So I can proportionate to the resources they've in their website. My traffic is insanely high. I'm sure theirs is higher, but like I say, in proportion in terms of what they spend on getting traffic to what I spend, which is nothing other than my time, I do really well because I'm going after all these long tail keywords. So yes, 43 is great, but actually I'd rather create a whole bunch of pages at 23 than one page at 43.
Awesome, thank you. And then also on this slide, Nick, who are people paying the CPC money to in that CPC column?
Cost per click, that'd be if I were a merchant. If I were Keurig and I was selling Keurig brewers from my Keurig website, I would be spending money on advertising. So I would have maybe some Google AdWords ads, or maybe I'd have some Facebook ads. And when I was going through that process, I'd create the ads and I would say, hey, when somebody uses this key phrase, coffee maker Keurig, show them my ad. And I'm going to pay for each click that you deliver me. So I'm going to have an ad up there for my Keurig brewers, and I'm going to have this series of keywords, and I can say if one of these so I'm going to say to Google AdWords, when I set up my Google AdWords account, the campaign, I'm going to say these are the keywords that I want to trigger the showing of my ad. So the ad appears when someone is doing a search for coffee maker Keurig. Someone clicks on that ad. When they click on the ad, it costs them $1.94. That's the cost per click. That's how that works. Now, we shouldn't be doing that. That's not the model. I've never done paid advertising for Coffee Detective. It's almost impossible to make that pay. But it's just kind of interesting. Like, for instance, if you put in there in Uber Suggest, instead of coffee maker, if I put in home insurance, you look at, for a laugh, do it. Put life insurance in as a keyword in Uber Suggest, and you'll see that cost per click, $11, $17, $20. Insurance companies pay an insane amount for a lead because they know they can make the money back. So it's just, for us, it's kind of curious. It's kind of interesting to see the perceived value of a phrase. What does the market perceive the value of this phrase? It can be helpful in some ways.
Thank you, Nick. And if you'd like to stop sharing your slides now, I think that's the last one, I believe, relating to the slides.
Right.
Perfect. There you are. Good to see you. The next question for you. Should one worry that a topic might be too narrow or possibly too ideological? Something like politics?
If it's too ideological, you'll probably find a very passionate following. If you're appealing to true believers in whatever they believe, that can work. It speaks back to what I was talking about in terms of a cause. I was talking about, and yes, Bonnie, there will be a replay available in about 24 hours. Sorry, I just saw the question come up at the bottom. So yeah, whatever it is, whether it's politics or religion or whatever, you can have quite a niche interest, and you will find people who are passionate to keep up with information on that. Now, going back to the question of can a topic be too niche, then yes, it can. So I got a little. I got a Chromebook with a sticker. Let's say I did a website about stickers for Chromebooks. Too narrow? Probably. Not sure how I could write about stickers for Chromebooks. I'd run out of things to say. It's not something anyone would search for. It's far too niche. It's like, so sticker. Nah, maybe if I do stickers for business, stickers for marketing, then it becomes more viable. So definitely, yeah, you can get to a point where the niche is too narrow, where you basically just have not enough people interested. And if not enough people are interested, they're not going to be searching and they're not going to find you.
Great. And then on the flip side, someone's wondering, what if the topic is already too populated?
All right. So now you have very, very high supply. And so remember that supply demand thing. So again, if you get an Uber suggest, then you're going to start seeing the search difficulty being very, very high number. And yeah, you got to look at that and say, okay, I can't compete with that. I can't do that. I can't, if the search difficulty is at 95, then that's a pretty strong sign that on that phrase, there's no way someone like us can compete. So yeah, sometimes hey, like I said, you can make a lot of money, say, as an affiliate for life insurance. Hey, I'll give you an example. I have a website about gold, about owning gold bullion, gold coins. It's in fact, you can go and have a look. It's called owninggold.com. I write it under a pseudonym because I don't want people breaking into my home thinking I might have gold here, which by the way, I don't. Just in case you want to break into my home. So owninggold.com, terrific domain name, just 2 words, owninggold.com. And I worked hard for years on it. I put up a couple of posts, I think, last year, mainly relating to Bitcoin rather than gold. And did I ever make much money at it? No. I've pretty much given up on it. I just kind of throw something up there for fun these days. Why? Insane competition. Anything to do with finance, anything to do with investment, anything to do with gold, precious metals. Just way too much competition. There's no way, as little old me, very part-time. So what I've done over the years is, like, whether it's the headphones thing or owning gold, and the Coffee Detective, is I've started projects. And Coffee Detective, like, pretty early on, I knew that I was going to be a keeper pretty early on. I knew that headphones wasn't going to be a keeper pretty early on. I kind of kept going really just out of personal interest on owning gold for longer than I should, just because the topic interests me, the subject interests me. But I've never made much money on that, and the reason is it's just way too competitive. Anything to do with money and investment, it's just like incredibly competitive out there. So yeah, I never really stood a chance. There's my search difficulty is always like up in the 90s. So I don't think I've ever been on page 1 of Google for anything on that website ever. It's mainly just been me just being persistent and stubborn and curious that I should have given up and I sold the domain about 10 years ago on that one.
And Nick, does alternative health include mental health?
Good question. Part of it depends on whether you're selling anything. If you're making health-related promises and then you're selling product on that website, that is going to make Google very, very twitchy. If you don't have that authority, if you're not a doctor or a researcher or a pharmaceutical company or something like that. I don't know specifically, but I think if you're not selling product, if it's information, it's certainly not as big of a problem. And I think, yeah, I don't know. All right. I don't know. But I think you're probably on safer ground with mental health than you are, if you're talking about homeopathic medicines, or you're talking about aromatherapy, or you're talking about supplements of some kind. Those are the areas where you're actually writing content and then you're selling something either as a merchant or as an affiliate. That is going to make Google more twitchy. Now, as to whether or not Google are right in doing what they're doing with that, that's a whole different question. But it is what they do.
Thank you, Nick. The next question for you. I've been through the first 2 sections of the program, so I've utilized Ubersuggest and Keyword Spy to try to crack the code of my interests. I find myself coming up short, though. My broad interests are well served, and my niching interests bring numbers so much smaller, I'm not sure the market is there. Is there a magic number you look for in monthly searches to know it's worth the effort?
No. And like I say, the trouble is if you go to these different tools, those monthly search numbers will vary massively. So when I'm looking at stuff like that, I never pay attention to the actual number. I always look at the relative numbers. Because like I say, you just go to 3 or 4 different tools and you'll find that they throw out completely different numbers in terms of supply and demand. It's really, really frustrating. It'd be really helpful if they were all pretty similar, because then you could say, hey, if there's demand for 10,000 people a month, then that's cool. But like I say, the numbers vary so much. So I'm always looking at the relative number rather than the absolute.
Thank you. Up next for you, your discussion seems to be aimed at structuring the entire website, but can't one check on today's or recent popular searches and then write a page keyed to what people want to know?
Say that again?
Sure. So your discussion seems to be aimed at structuring the entire website, but can't one check on today's or recent popular searches and then write a page keyed to what people want to know?
Yes. Yeah. So it's a good question. So what I do at this stage, what I do with Coffee Detective, what I'm doing with my new website is basically I'm creating the core, what we call the evergreen content. So for Coffee Detective, a page on how to make coffee. That's evergreen content. It's not going to change much over the years. It's absolutely central to the topic. It's something that I need to have on the Coffee Detective website. So that's what I do early on, is I'm building basically these kind of foundational pages, the key pages that people expect to find. Like I said, coffee grinders are never done very well in terms of keyword research, but people, if they come to Coffee Detective and they see what it's about, see what the basic promise of the website is, which is to make gourmet coffee at home, then they're going to expect to see a section on coffee grinders. So that's what I give them. It's an evergreen page. I might add reviews of new grinders, but the actual how does a grinder work and which kind of grinder is better, that information remains the same over decades. So that's the evergreen stuff. So that's what I do first. And like with my new website, that's what I'm doing. I'm populating it with the evergreen. And we're going to get into this next week more. Is it next week or the week after? I can't remember. In terms of how we structure the content on the site. Once I have that evergreen content, there's sort of main pillars of content on my website, then I'm going to start paying lots more attention to what are people interested in today. So it could be seasonal. It could be what's in the news. It could be what's hot. It could be all kinds of stuff. So yes, then I'll be throwing up all kinds of different content. Some of it won't be evergreen, like it'll be might be really popular for the next 2 months, but then after that, not so much. So yeah, I start off with the evergreen stuff and then I go for what are people looking for today.
Sounds good. And without getting overwhelmed, would you just use Ubersuggest and answer the public for research?
I will usually do, whoever it was asked a question about keyword spy. Another one I think that's in the course material is SEMrush. I'll use quite a few different tools. Things like SEMrush are a pain because I don't want to pay for a subscription because it's more money than it's worth to me for a project like this. But what you can do is with SEMrush, you can create an account and then it gives you very limited access per day. And then after the first few searches, they say, okay, that's it for today. And then you have to wait till the next day. So, there are various other tools you can use. Another one that I like is, oh my goodness, I'm having a dead brain moment, a dead neuron moment. It'll come back to me. What's it called? Can't remember. It'll come to me. Basically, it's a social media search site, like finding the most popular the most shared content for social media. I find that interesting as well as a tool to look at to see if content is shareable through social media. I actually pay for that one. I think in terms of if you use Ubersuggest, and again, it depends on the platform. But certainly one way, I say that because say if you're using Solo Build It SBI, then there's a keyword research built into that service, which you'd use that a lot. You'd rely on that a lot. So I use that one too. Because Coffee Detective is built on the Solo Build It, the SBI platform. So I use their tool, which is called their Brainstormer tool, which is basically their in-house equivalent of Ubersuggest. So yeah, I want a solid keyword research tool. So it could be the Brainstormer for SBI, it could be Ubersuggest, it could be Word Tracker if you sort of paid for a month or something. Or I don't know whether one thing you might be able to do with Word Tracker is, I don't know whether they're doing it right now, but a free trial. Sometimes they do it like a 1 week free trial. So when that happens, if a professional grade service like Word Tracker, where I don't want to pay, but they offer a 1 week free trial, and they may want your credit card, you may have to cancel like on day 6.5. And I don't know whether they're doing it right now, but I know they've done it in the past. And in that case, what I'll do is I'll get all my ducks in a row. I'll get everything ready. I'll know all the phrases that I want to do. And then I'll dive in and get my week's worth or my day's worth on a free trial on some tool or other. But in terms of this part of the project, that's the most important thing I'll be looking at is Ubersuggest or equivalent. I really want to get a feel for that supply and demand thing, to make sure that I have a chance here. Incidentally, something else, and there's so many things we could discuss about this. When I was saying don't freak out if you don't, get tons and tons of phrases that have a strong for search engine optimization. There's other kind of soft qualities like your tone of voice. There are some people who build an amazing business because of their character and their voice. And it's not really about search. It's because people talk about them. People say, oh, hey, have you listened to so-and-so? Have you heard so-and-so? Have you watched so-and-so? Did you see this video clip? Have you read this piece? Because the content is just so compelling or interesting or entertaining or relevant or informative or valuable. So sometimes, and again, we're going to get to this when we talk about content. So this is like foundational stuff in terms of it's like stuff you need to check on, right? It's like looking over a used car or something. There's some basics like, can I find some keyword phrases? Can I get into the search engine? So it's not the only thing. It's just an important thing at this stage. And like I say, I know some people who have really made a go of it where it's not been about optimization in a kind of structural way, like with keywords. It's been just about the compelling nature of their information that they just become wildly popular and people hear about it and talk about it and share it.
Great. Thank you, Nick. And I did just want to let you know we have about 22 questions left today, if we want to kind of rapid fire them here.
All right. We're going to go into rapid fire. I'm not very good at rapid fire, but.
Awesome. All right. So does doing the research ever cool your passion for the topic?
No, it can be a bit of a grind sometimes. But if it does cool your passion, you might think, well, hang on, maybe I'm not that passionate about it. So yeah, it can be a bit of a grind. It can be a little discouraging sometimes, but that's where the stubbornness and persistence come in.
Perfect. And how many pages would you say you need to make a healthy website that creates an income?
It's a very how long is a piece of string thing. I don't really have records. I should have kept records on Coffee Detective of what my first, check was, as it were, my first monthly income, when it happened and how much it was for. But I would say, unless you create some pages that get a ton of traffic, like say with my new website that I'm putting up, I would expect to have at least 50 pages up there before I would consider any kind of income. I would consider, I'd think, hey, I'm going to need at least 100 pages before I start seeing some income where I think, that's made a difference.
Great, thank you. Up next, someone is wondering what the rainbow is that you were referencing near the end of your presentation.
That was just decorative. It was a decorative rainbow. It meant nothing.
I like it. And Nick, do you know if all these websites you're mentioning, are they available in printable material? Someone sees that Ubersuggest is, but not Answer the Public.
You mean, can you print out the results? Some you can, some you can't. Some you can take a screen capture of. Or print page.
Perfect. And someone noticed that the word tracker Scout page says that there's an error. Is there another link to the Chrome extension?
If there's an error, just hey, you know what? Whenever you can't find something, go to Google and type in word tracker Scout, and you'll find it. And then there's maybe not. I thought I'd check that link, but just go to word tracker Scout and search for word tracker Scout through Google, and you'll find the link.
Perfect. And when doing your research on Google, is there a difference searching a term or a phrase without quotes around it?
Yeah, if you put quotes around it, what it'll do is it looks for that exact phrase. So if I say best coffee maker, they might give me the results that include what is the best coffee maker or where can I find the best coffee maker. But if I put quotes around it, it'll only give me results that are to that exact phrase and nothing else.
Okay. And do travel-related companies have affiliate programs, or will advertising be the only way to make money from a tourist website?
There can be all kinds of ways to monetize a tourist website. So yeah, there'll certainly be affiliate opportunities there.
And how can you easily find who your competitors would be? Would you look on Ubersuggest?
I would go to Google. So if I were, if I wanted to find out who the competitors are Coffee Detective, I'd type in things like how to make coffee at home, how to make gourmet coffee at home. So that's the core topic of my website, is how to make gourmet coffee at home. So I'd type in that phrase, how to make gourmet coffee at home, and I'd look at the first, 10 organic search results on Google, and then they're competing for that phrase. They're competing on that topic.
And do you recommend having a different computer for business and one for personal use?
Can do. I kind of mix and match. Actually, I have two. I have one I'm in the basement for doing this kind of thing, and then I have a desk upstairs where I do most of my work. But I don't separate it out through. It's not separated through work and pleasure. You can do it all on the same computer. But I would highly recommend. I was helping someone about a year ago now, and she was building a money-making website. And she just was, she'd never had a laptop. She just had a tablet. And she said, "Well, can I do this with a tablet?" And we thought about it and played around with it a bit, and not really. Yeah, I guess it would have been possible, but I would strongly recommend that you have at least a laptop. But yeah, if you've got a home computer that you have access to and you have time to work with, then that's absolutely fine.
Great. And someone says they know SEO will come in later, but do you think they'll learn enough just SEO here to be successful in the topic?
You've got enough SEO in sections 1 and 2. There's enough on SEO there to use SEO as a means to choose your topic. As you move ahead, you're going to want to learn more about that because you're going to be looking to create pages that do well in the search engines for forever. So you will just automatically become more sophisticated user of SEO tools, and you'll understand it more, and you'll kind of follow the topic more. So what I've done in sections 1 and 2 is give you enough information to use SEO and SEO tools as a means to figure out whether your topic has potential, whether you think you can, build a big enough audience with that.
Great. And how often do you post on your website?
Coffee Detective. So Coffee Detective, I'm cheeky, is that I used to probably, at the very beginning, I was probably putting up a page a day. Now so what I do with Coffee Detective is I have user-generated content. In other words, people ask me a question. So they kick off the content by asking me a question, is coffee fattening? And then I answer it. And so those pages are fairly easy for me to create. In terms of evergreen pages, I'm probably pretty much done. So these days with Coffee Detective, I work much less hard at it. And the only time that I create a page, in other words, not in response to a question, is basically product reviews, like equipment reviews or a coffee review. So I've done a couple of equipment reviews recently. I got this guy sending me some coffee from Honduras. That'll be a new page. But other than that, so I probably this year I probably, created, 5 new pages. I used to do that in a week when I was starting out. So yeah, I do enough to maintain the site now. But say for my new website, I'm looking to probably for the first year, once I've published, I'll probably be looking to adding 2 pages a week, or 2 pages a week for the first year. That'll be my target for my new website. It's kind of scary, but.
Thank you, Nick. And how do you spell one of the last sites that you mentioned? Something along the lines of syllabi or syllabil?
Syllabil?
They spell it Syllabil. And that might be available in the transcript tomorrow as well, or later.
Syllabil? It was a page or a tool, or.
Let's see, they mentioned a site. Feel free to follow up. We can come back to that one.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the social media site BuzzSumo, BuzzSumo, BuzzSumo.com. And you type in a phrase there, like best coffee maker, and it doesn't give you, this was when my brain died and I couldn't think of it, it's BuzzSumo. It doesn't give you keyword like which are the top results for search engines. What it does is it gives you the content that include that phrase, like best coffee maker. What pages that are about best coffee makers were the most often frequently shared on social media, and on what platforms were they shared? So it's a social media optimization, among other things, a social media optimization tool, and that becomes really interesting. So I can look at it like at a page topic like best coffee makers, or Burr coffee grinders, or Costa Rican coffee, or whatever the phrase is. I can look at it from an SEO point of view in Uber Suggest, or I can look at it in terms of what's the shareability. Do a lot of people share pages on this topic? through social media, and that's where I go to BuzzSumo. BuzzSumo has a paid and a free option. It's one of the few things where I actually figure it's worth my while to pay, and that was because they did a 50% off deal in Black Friday, which I jumped on. But even the free version is entirely usable. You can use it all the time. But I think the limit is that you only get 10 results, and there's some options that are not available, but it can still be very useful to you, the free version, BuzzSumo.
Thanks, Nick. And a couple people are following up that they heard something about SBI. Maybe that was what they were referencing.
Okay, solo build it. Or and we'll talk about this next week or the week after. If you go to, and it's confusing, they have so many different names somehow, but if you go to a website called SiteSell, SITESELL.com, it is a platform for building websites. It's the platform that I use for Coffee Detective, and it's one of the platforms we'll talk about soon. So yes, it used to be called Site Build It. It's now they changed their name to Solo Build It, but it's on you can get a SiteSell.com, and that's the website. But again, don't make decisions on platforms until we get there, please.
Sounds good. And for Ubersuggest, is there an SD number that is too low to even bother?
Well, you're going to then look over into the left-hand column and see what kind of, because I think on the coffee thing, what was it? There was 130,000 for the best coffee maker, and then for the Keurig one was 111,000. So those are big numbers. If you start getting at the bottom, again, it's relative, right? So I don't know whether those are actually absolute numbers. Different tools will give you different numbers. But if I go down the bottom and it says 10, it tells me, that's definitely a long tail keyword. So I can win on that. But even if I get all 10, which I won't, but even if I got all 10, that's not a lot of traffic. So I probably wouldn't want to work too hard for that.
Perfect. And going back to an earlier question, who is getting the CPC money and how is it paid?
What happens is that the Google, if it's Google AdWords, if I want to advertise with Google AdWords, Google gets the money. If they're advertising platform, I'm going to pay them $1.94 for each click. Or maybe it's Facebook ads. I'm going to pay Facebook $1.94 for a click. So that's if I'm buying advertising. If I'm hosting advertising on my website, so the flip side to Google AdWords is Google AdSense. So that is where a publisher like Coffee Detective, I used to have Google AdSense on the site. I don't anymore. I use a different network. But then all of a sudden on my website, I'm hosting those ads. So if someone then clicks on an ad on the Coffee Detective site, then the revenue is shared between me and Google. And I get, with Google AdSense, I think the publisher gets something like 70% and Google gets something like 30%. So if it's $1 per click, I get 70 cents per click on that ad.
Got it. Thank you, Nick. And do you have any advice on a website about journaling or any learning of skill for reaching a goal? I think that's what they're asking. Would that be a good topic? Journaling, learning a skill, or reaching for a goal?
Journaling could certainly be a topic, but again, go through the process, go through the steps, and use Ubersuggest, go to BuzzSumo, go through the process outlined in the course material, and see whether you think it's going to be viable.
And how niche should you go for a topic as general as something like running?
Well, running, so running is too broad. Maybe it could be, some really interesting niches, which would apply to running, is running in the particular areas. Or maybe it's urban running, or maybe it's running in the Appalachians. Maybe it's running in the, rainforest running or whatever. If you do it by location, or if you do it geographically, we've had quite a few success stories of people setting up, say tourism in a particular part of the country, a particular locale or something like that. And it's, that can work. So running itself is probably too broad. Running equipment in terms of shoes, it's probably fairly competitive. But if it's running, the Appalachians, or if it's running, beach running, or just I'm not a runner, so I don't know how you would break it down into niches. But yes, I certainly go for at least one level down from running. Maybe it's running for seniors, maybe it's running for kids. I don't know.
Great. And someone is asking, how can I make money with non-religious motivational blogs?
If you get enough traffic, you could do it with advertising. Then once you've got enough motivational things, you could turn them into ebooks and sell the ebooks. You could host virtual events of, inspirational events or something. You could have people, even things like, you can have subscription channels on YouTube now. So if you have enough audience there, you can have people paying to view your materials. So something like inspirational, again, be careful, very, very competitive. I actually dipped a toe into that space. And there's a lot of competition in that space. So again, do the research. I dipped my toe in and took it out quite quickly.
It's a motivated toe. And Nick, would it make sense as we do research on our topic to consider if related subtopics could be used as micro offers in the form of info products?
So start again.
Sure. Would it make sense as we do research on our topic to consider if related subtopics could be used as micro offers in the form of info products?
Sure. So as you have a topic, like I did my topic was, making gourmet coffee at home. I suddenly realized that some ways in, I hadn't thought about it at the beginning, didn't come up in my primary research. Probably a year or two in, I realized that there was health. And again, this was before the Medic update. Although I don't think Google is upset by that, but I have a big section within Coffee Detective on how coffee benefits your health. It's full of antioxidants. It's like blah, 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 all lots of good stuff. And in fact, at some point I wrote a very short ebook on the different ways in which coffee is good for your health, and sold that. Not very successfully, but I gave it a try. So yes, something like that. And again, that's a lesson that, I'd never anticipated that there would be a health-related section in the website. I didn't learn that until after I'd been running the website for a while. And yes, that did turn into an ebook. Didn't work, but gave it a try.
Thank you, Nick. And we do have about 10 questions left if you have time for those today.
I do, but I got to get faster at this.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll do our last call for questions in at the moment, guys.
Yeah.
Would you consider gluten-free?
Cut them off now.
All right, these are our last 10. You can move anything else to the Facebook group, guys, if you need any more. Would you consider gluten-free baking or cooking an alternative health niche?
No. As long as you don't tell people it's going to save their life or make them live to their 120.
Right. And when we start earning those AWAI credits, what programs do you suggest we buy if we just want something that will help with this program specifically? Would you say email or SEO, social media?
Oh, I don't know. Let me think. Ask me again 3 sessions down. We're not there yet.
All right, Derek, that's on you. We'll be looking for it. And what would be the best tool for keyword search for a WordPress site?
Just what we're talking about today. So there are, we'll talk in another thing. There are keyword plugins for a WordPress website, and I use one of those. But it's not the same as a keyword research tool. So regardless of the platform, like Ubersuggest is in terms of a keyword research tool, they are platform agnostic.
Great. And when you are referring to pages, this is not relative to the navigation tabs, right?
Can be. So I've got my home page. If I have some tabs across the top there, and again, we're going to get into this. These will be my second level category pages. Like it could be coffee equipment, could be coffee reviews. So yes, each tab will go to a page. So those are each pages. I might have a drop down on the tabs. So I might have a principal page for that main tab, but then a drop down. So they could also be level 2. There might be level 3 pages. So yeah, I could go to, I might have my homepage. I could go to coffee makers, and then so that is a second level page. And then towards the end of that page, I might have, hey, go to our page on pour over coffee makers. We have a page on single serve coffee makers. We have a page on, so all of these are now third level pages. So yeah, it's all pages. Well, unless it's a blog post.
And how do you look at trends to know if there's interest in a growing topic?
Google Trends. Go to Google and search Google Trends. I think it's trends.google.com, but just go to Google, search Google Trends, and you'll go to the Google Trends website, and then you'll type in coffee, or you'll type in Keurig, or you'll type in whatever it is that interests you, and you can say, hey, show me the trend of interest in this topic over the last month, over the last 6 months, over the last 6 years. You can break it down geographically. So Google Trends is very good on tracking trends. I don't think that Google Trends has ever made me say yes or no to a topic. Even if something's trending way down, then it would certainly give me pause. If something is trending really fast up, it might make me worry that a lot of other people are seeing the same information, and it might get a bit competitive. So when I go to Google Trends, I'm kind of interested in growth, but not too dramatic. If it's flat, that's okay. If it's really going down, that'd probably give me pause. What I really like to do, though, is comparative, because I can compare things. I can put in Keurig, Bun, Cuisinart, so 3 different brands of coffee makers, and then I'm going to get comparative trends. I can see which is the most popular brand, and which brands the trending up and which trending down, and that can be a really interesting insight. And it doesn't have to be just by brand. It could be all kinds of ways. So you can compare trending data across different topics.
Thank you. And does that mean it's best to do all of your evergreen pages first and then work on review pages later and so on?
I do. Like, again, with this new website I'm saying, what are the fundamental pages? If someone, given the title and the promise of this website, what are the fundamental pages people would expect to find? So with Coffee Detective, it is people want to find out about coffee making equipment. They want to, coffee grinders, coffee makers, maybe espresso machines. They want to learn how to make coffee. So how to make coffee section is going to be fundamental, because that's part of my promise, how to make gourmet coffee at home. So I'm looking at my first group of pages. I'm looking at, if there's some kind of promise, this website will show you how to, or will inform you relating to such and such, or it will make you the best possible journaler ever. What pages will people expect to find if that is the promise of the website? So they become my first kind of foundational pages that I build. So that's what I'm doing with my new website. I'm saying, given the promise, given what I say on the first screen of the homepage, what do people expect to find? And that's what I give them. And then once I've taken care of that, these kind of foundational pages, these evergreen content pages, then I'll start getting more into the weeds, of kind of more like kind of niche little topics, is coffee fattening? All right. It's not one of my foundational pages on how to make coffee. It's just like a little side thing, but some people are interested in it.
Great. And this person's asking, what if I'm interested in one thing that they know very well, but the topic does not have enough demand and little supply, and they're not really interested in anything else? What should they do? According to Uber Suggest, the search volume is 8100 and SEO difficulty is 35, paid difficulty 4.
When you throw it into the Facebook group and see what people think.
Awesome.
I say that because we don't have time to address it, but it's the kind of thing it's impossible to answer the question unless we know what it is.
If anyone's looking for that Facebook group, it's available on your member page. You'll find all the info right there on your member page if you're looking for it. And Nick, do you have any help on your coffee website, or do you do it all by yourself?
I've done that one pretty much 100% all by myself. Like pretty much, I think there's like 2 pages there that were written by someone else, because I had a conversation with someone who said, oh, I've been making this homemade flavoring for my coffee. And I said, hey, why don't you take some, make it again, take some photos and write a page for it and we'll publish it. I think there may be 2 pages like that out of 1,200. All the others are either written by me from top to bottom, or a user has sent in a question, and then I've used that as a kind of starting point to build the page. Basically, it's me. Now, on the new one, I'm actually going to help me out with those first, say, 20, 30 pages. I'm probably going to do 2/3 of them, and I'm working with someone else who's going to help me out, and then probably she'll probably end up writing about 1/3 of those, just to kind of help me get started.
Awesome. And the last question for today, should I have more pages that are shorter on my website, rather than less pages that are longer? So more that are shorter rather than less that are longer.
Less that are longer. We will get to that. We'll speak about that in some detail.
Awesome, Nick. And I think that was an incredible first session. Thank you so much for your time today.
It's a dense one. It's a big one. This first session is always slightly scary because there's so much kind of information there. But thank you, everyone. And yeah, just take a breath. It's all good, and we'll get through this together. And like I say, it's kind of fun because I really am doing this together at about this. Like, I'm probably about 3 weeks ahead of you in terms of thinking stuff through and stuff. But yeah, it's kind of fun to be doing this together like that. So I will be keeping an eye on the Facebook page, and we will meet again in a week.